My name is Shirish Sinha. I'm the head of the Climate Change and Energy Program in WWF India. On the issue of the India and US deal on or agreement, what has happened as a result of the Prime Minister's visit recently, what we have seen as an output in discussions from there is a range of agreements and outputs, including clean energy, renewable energy, as well as focus on transfer of technology, etc., being discussed. But we haven't really seen any form of a clear agreement and a focus on what essentially should constitute a climate decision. We still are looking at for further details of what exactly it means for India's petition, but we do feel that there will be some nuanced shift in India's position and where India essentially looks at the climate policy as a result of the discussion that happened in Washington between the Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh, and President Obama. On the issue of an ambitious an outcome in Copenhagen, what we as civil society has called is a FAB deal in Copenhagen, which is a fair, ambitious and binding agreement or deal in Copenhagen. What we mean by fair is that it is essentially equitable. It deals with the issue of fairness and equity so that it maintains the differentiation between the industrialized and the developing countries. Ambitious, by which we mean is that the industrialized countries, given that their historical responsibility, they take on deeper emission cut targets, which we are saying is minus 40% below 1990 levels by 2020, and set from there onwards a more ambitious plan for 2050. And a binding essentially would mean that there is a strong compliance by the industrialized countries on meeting these ambitious targets that they essentially set. An additional output from the Copenhagen, which would make it ambitious, would be some form of voluntary commitments from the emerging economies, including China, India, South Africa, and Brazil, Indonesia, which are countries which are growing fast, and some kind of a voluntary domestic action which shows the kind of deviation that will actually happen from their current baselines, or say 2005 levels, by 2020. But having said that, this is what an ambitious agreement and output should look like from Copenhagen. We also realize the political realities of it, and we are more likely to get some form of a political agreement rather than any form of an ambitious agreement. And what we actually got in Bali, we think was a political agreement, and the 2 years was a process which should have given an ambitious agreement. But we're looking for probably another form of a political agreement coming out of Copenhagen. It could still put in a process for something more binding to happen beyond Copenhagen, but at present it looks like more focused towards a political decision and more form of political statements. Something similar to what we got at Bali may get repeated at Copenhagen. But at the same time, as a civil society, we are keeping on our pressure on the governments, on the different stakeholders involved, to see that we still get a very ambitious agreement and outcome in Copenhagen.